What's happening, everybody? The Poets here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. And we are continuing the build process for this AM5 platform. I have right here the very robust, excuse the loud sound in the microphone, MSI MEG X670E Ace motherboard. It is fantastic. It does have a 7950X processor, so that's 16 cores, 32 threads. That's the new Ryzen 9, 7000 platform. And it also has 64 gigs of Kingston Fury DDR5 RAM, and it is 6,000 megatransfers, CL36 off the top of my head. And then there's also a 2 terabyte NVMe drive. It's a PCIe Gen 4.0 drive by Kingston. It's their Renegade version. And with that, we also have the cooler, which is the Thermaltake W7 Plus, which I've used before in a 5950X, and it cooled it very nicely. So we're gonna find out if it can cool this 7950X as well. I also did a video of showing how a lot of the AM4 coolers are really not compatible with this AM5 platform. So you have to get, basically adapters or updates through those manufacturers. And Thermaltake was the first one for custom water cooling blocks that I have that actually was able to ship me that. So go ahead and check that video out as well. So we've done a number of videos on this. This video is going to be very special because we're going to add the motherboard to this. This is the Thermaltake DistroCase 350p. I first saw this case at CES 2020, kind of like their prototype of it. And then Thermaltake was kind enough to eventually send me the finished product about a year and a half ago, about a year ago. And I've built in this a couple of times. I showed a few videos of that. And now this is going to be the test bed. So as I need to change out GPUs, like here we have a GPU. If you've been watching my TikTok, you know what GPU this is. This is the HP Omen 3090, a very clean looking 3090. Performs pretty regularly like many other 3090s. You're not gonna overclock the heck out of this thing. It just does have the 2 power plugs right here, not the 3 like a Strix, but a 3090 is a 3090 to be honest. And this thing has been pretty darn good. I will do a further video series on a few different graphics cards. That's all I can really say right now, so stay tuned with that. But this system is going to allow me to do that. So as this has been an educational series on how to build a PC, we're now at the stage where there's going to be some similarities. Basically, no matter what PC you're building, you still have to attach the motherboard to all the cables that a PC case actually has. Kind of hard to call this a PC case because it's an entire water block. All of this is a water block with a very powerful pump right here. So Thermaltake did a bang up job on this. We also do have the newest style of power supply. This is the Thermaltake Toughpower GF3 1200 watt 80 plus gold, and it's basically quality, high quality component. So it kind of battles with platinum. So kind of think of that. And because of that, this is the ATX 3.0 standard. This is the newest plug. Hopefully this is focus, man. So it's the newest plug, very different from what we're used to with previous GPUs. This does carry 600 watts, and there's a lot of controversy over this right now. I've done a number of videos on YouTube, Shorts, and TikTok talking about this, but basically they've reduced going from these types of cables to this one cable. Oops. And it's nicer in terms of aesthetics, just one cable instead of like 3 of these. But we're also putting a lot of wattage into this. So these are getting really hot and all that stuff, and some are melting. So it's not really a good area right now for these ATX 3.0 power cables. I'll just put it that way with this PCIe Gen 5. But all the newer NVIDIA 40 series graphics cards are taking these plugs. So I'll go more in depth with that in another video if need be, but in this video here, we're not going to be using this because the 3090s just take our trusty old reliable, beat them as you want power cables for this. So very happy to start with this, and we're going to do all of our benchmarking with that 7950X, 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and an RTX 3090. So the first step here is going to be quite simple. This, if you saw my previous video on this of attaching the motherboard to this, it just slides in. So let's see if I can do this with one take. Let's see here. We got the top part, and see if I can get the bottom part in. See, I'm trying to film and do this at the same time. Not the easiest thing in the world. Boom, there we go. And so then that just comes like that. A couple of screws go right here, slide a GPU in here, or like that. Very nice, very simple. And as we need to do cable management, so nice and easy. So basically, we just need to start routing cables and plugging in cables. So let's get to that. Now back here, you'll notice I actually have these neatly twist tied, which is very convenient. Keeps things organized. And so these are going to be the cables that you plug into the motherboard for like the hard drive, LED, you know, flashes on and off, your reset button, your power button, and let's see here. These over here are for your USB. Well, this one is for USB. This one is for HD audio. This one is for USB 3.0, so the faster one's kind of like the blue cables, and they're all up top here. So let's see here. This one is the USB 2.0. This is USB 3.0. All nicely labeled. And so as I'm taking this off, we can route these as we see fit. So normally, I'll just kind of take these off and they can easily route right underneath here because there's all kinds of space right here, which is so nice and convenient. And then when it comes to like these big things, this is the power plug for the motherboard. And so this end is plugged in here to the power supply unit. And so then this, we can actually route like through here, which is very nice. Close this up, for example. And these are thick, heavy cables. And then it'll just plug in right here. And so this will just wrap around and plug in right there as we need to as well. So this right here also has the USB-C port. And if you power this right here, you'll actually get 60 watts of power. This PC case unfortunately does not have USB-C. I'm not upset too much that this case doesn't have USB-C because right on the back of the motherboard right here, we're gonna have easy access to all of our ports. And it's actually gonna be cleaner using these rather than having cables coming from up top, right? So that's why I like this motherboard because it's got all the ports that we need. 20 gig USB-C right here, another 20 gig USB-C here, 10 gig USB-C, and this is also the display port out at the same time. And then all of these USB-As are also 10 gigabit as well. And then we have 10 gigabit Ethernet, Wi-Fi 6E, and then all the audio that we want. So you can almost kind of think of this as a full-featured front of the case where you can just plug everything in, but it's the rear or the side or really however you want to orientate this because this is all custom water cooling with a back plate like that. So yeah, so let's just plug everything in. Now this is the front audio right here. And this is very easy to plug in. Obviously you always want to read your manual because all of these little pins right here will tell you exactly where everything needs to go. So we're just going to go ahead and plug this in right here. Nice. So that's the first one. Yay! So this one right here, labeled as USB, and these are actually boldly labeled USB. So that's kind of nice. So we'll just kind of stick that right here. Then this is the part that a lot of people hate. These little tiny ones, the front headers, right? For hard disk drive lights and LEDs and reset and power button. But we do need this plugged in, right? So this is something that some motherboard manufacturers actually make it easy. They kind of give you this nice little sleeve and it's labeled and then you just plug that whole thing right into the motherboard. This one does not come with that. So the first one, and looking at the manual, is the hard disk light LED. And these things actually have like a plus and minus. So that's the plus, the little arrow. So we're gonna plug that one in the bottom left-hand corner. And again, always refer to your manual. The next one is the reset switch. And these do go in firmly. So you'll see something like this, power switch. And in your manual, it'll tell you if they need to be a certain orientation, like positive or negative. And if they don't reference it, then it doesn't matter at all. So there we go. All of them right there. That's probably the hardest part of installing a motherboard right there. This cable right here is the USB 3.0. So these are the blue USBs that are up top. This is the faster one, which is nice, but I tend to plug this in last because it's a very tough cable. We do have to plug these in up here. So these are going to be labeled as CPU. Don't look at me, focus on that. There you go, CPU. So that's plugged into the power supply, and now we can just wrap this up through here. So you always have to be mindful of cable management, plan things out. And we're going to plug the first one right here. And then the second one. And then we can shove these down. Now there are things like cable extensions where you can actually make these look pretty, like make them pink and red and gray and whatever colors you want. So that can be another video series, but for now we're just going to use the stock cables that came with the power supply unit. These two cables are pretty easy. They go to the GPU. So what I'm going to do is have the ability to either plop a GPU down like this or in like that. And because of that, I can actually just have these come right up through here. So that's going to be very nice and convenient. These two cables right here are for the GPU. And this 3090 does have two power plugs right here. So I'm going to keep all the terminology simple. So one cable here does come split as it's two. So you could actually plug this one cable and fill both of these plugs right here and supply the power pretty well. But 3090s do draw a lot of power at the same time. So I'm not always comfortable just using one cable for a 3090. Therefore, I want to split the load, and I'm going to use both cables here. So we'll set that aside for when we're ready to actually install the GPU. But we know that cable management for these are nice and easy because it just comes through the top part here. So now at this point, I'm pretty ready to install this on the motherboard. This is the big fat one that actually powers pretty much everything else on the motherboard. This does come with this clip right here. So you want to align the clip up with the little catchy thing on the motherboard. So you want to, as you're routing it, make sure you're routing it in the correct way so that when I'm wrapping it around here, it's going to hit the clip. So we're just going to go ahead and slide that in, and there we go. And then from this side, I can just kind of see everything, see how the cable management's going. So this is like the RGB. I want to make sure that this is free. And then I'll be able to just close everything and then screw everything down. So let's go ahead and attach the GPU. So this bracket is kind of nice because I have the option with the GPU to install it horizontal or vertical. And more cases are coming with options like this because you can use what's called a riser cable to plug in here, and then it wraps down and plugs underneath the GPU if it's upright like that. Plug this in as so, and it locks in. And now I just have to screw these in here. And we can go ahead and fill in the rest. So now we have our PCIe cables. And traditionally, I don't like to use this end. I want to use this end because I can actually do some cable management to make it kind of look like it's just one cable. So kind of like that, all right? So just get the flippy flip correct. And you'll notice here that this actually splits apart, so you just put it together. So this is the first one. Stick it right in there and you'll hear a click. So then I can use like a twist tie or something to make that look like one. Okay, same with this one. It splits. So we can put that together, just like that. And then as you're holding it together, just go ahead and slide it in. And you'll hear a nice little click. So it's not the prettiest, but this is a how-to, all right? You can also wrap these around here. I've done it where it comes up and over as well. So it's really all personal preference. But again, this is just your simple how-to. And now we can finally plug in this heavy one. Ugh. And it has a little groove. This is the USB 3.0 one. It has a little groove, and you just want to slide it in. There we go. We have our satisfying click. My only other cable that's left is the Molex cable, and that plugs into the pump, and I'll do that when I'm ready to actually fill the loop here. One video topic that I could do an entire video on, allow myself to introduce myself, is fans. So that's one thing I haven't really mentioned much in this video, or really at all, because this setup here, they're going to be using fan hubs. Thermaltake has their own fan hubs because these things are RGB-rific, like they have more RGB than basically like any fan I've ever used. I'll just put it that way. But if you want to use something like these are kind of cool. So no RGB, these are the Be Quiet Silent Wings 3 high-speed fans, and they come with PWM plugs like this, and they actually will just plug right into different parts on the motherboard like that. Oops, sorry for the mic. And that's really nice and convenient because you'll know exactly which fan is being controlled, and as you're setting up your whole fan curve and understanding the airflow for your PC case, you can adjust each fan individually using the fan software for your motherboard. That's what I typically recommend. You can do that in the BIOS as well, which is pretty cool. And but then there's like all kinds of like Corsair fan hubs and stuff. So it really depends on your setup for how you are going to have to install the fans. So for all 6 of these fans, I'm not actually going to be using these ports at all. So again, read your motherboard manual because it'll tell you exactly which one of these plugs, or like 4 or 5, 2 of them, control fans. And you can also use a splitter. So for that one plug right here, I could have 2, 3, 4 fans just on that one plug as well. So don't worry if you think, hey, I have 6 fans, but only 2 plugs, 4 fans on my motherboard. It's not a problem, just use a splitter. They're cheap as well. So other than that, these, like I said, are gonna have the hubs. I'm just gonna plug the hubs up in here, and that's its own ball of wax as well. So if you really want me to do a video on the Thermaltake RIING Quad 12 fan hub situation, which also plugs into the RGB of this case, then yeah, I'll do a video on that too. But other than that, fans are straightforward. So read your motherboard manual. I've said that probably like 4 times or 5 times in this video. And we're good. So we have our power up here at the top of the motherboard. We have our main motherboard power. We have our USB 3.0. We have our front panel connectors right here. We have our USB 2.0s for up here. So the 3.0s are also up here as well. Those are the blue ones, the faster ones. And then we have our HD audio over there, which you really don't even need to plug that in, but I do. And then of course our GPU power as well. Then, like I said, Molex for the pump, but depending on your PC setup, you may or may not have a pump, obviously. And other than that, it's time to just do the custom water cooling, which I'm not going to do in this video because that's more the advanced stuff, but I will show that in another video. And since I know a lot of you are going to want to know what the back of this looks like, this is what this looks like. So it's a thick boy right here. It's as thick as my thumb, and it's going to look much better once all the fluid is actually in it, going through it, and the RGB is actually on. It's got a strip in the bottom, strip up top, so it's going to look pretty damn pretty. So this is supposed to be a blackout build, but sometimes RGB just wins. So we'll see, we'll see. So with that, let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know if I've left anything out. Obviously with this case, like I said, as a recap, it doesn't have USB-C as part of the case, but a lot of it on the rear for the motherboard. So these spots right here aren't going to be populated, nor do I have to plug this one in to power the 60-watt USB-C. So say you have a, I don't know, a cell phone that you wanted to charge rapidly. This is compatible with that, having this power plug plugged into that. So that's a nice feature, and I'll definitely use that when I put this motherboard in other cases in the future as well. So if you like this style of video, I'm sorry if it's a little haphazard, but you know, I felt I wanted to kind of get close and personal to show you guys how the basics of putting a PC together are. And I'll definitely do follow-up videos for testing to show you how the 7950X performs, this DDR5 RAM by Kingston, the 2 terabyte Kingston PCI Gen 4.0 Renegade NVMe drive, as well as the 3090 as a baseline, because then we're going to have 40 series cards and maybe other cards coming in here where this is going to be the whole test bed for that. So pretty cool, huh, for water cooling. So let me know if you guys have questions. Again, this is a ATX 3.0 compatible power supply unit. So again, I'm really interested in using this soon. So stay tuned. And if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video and all that good stuff. And yeah, I am kind of sweaty. It's warm. All right, peace.